Welcome to the Passive Income Machine podcast, where we show you how to break free from the grind and achieve real financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and I've helped thousands turn income into cash flow, trade fake money for real assets, and take back control over their time, their wealth, and ultimately their life. Each week, you'll get strategy, tools, and mindset to build your own passive income machine. So my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, my friend. Welcome to the Passive Income Machine. You today are on the microphone with me, Ryan D. Lee, and my longtime mentor. I would really say my BFF. I'm going to say my BFF right here on the podcast, Mr. Bob Allen. Bob, you want to say what's up to everybody?
Hi, everybody. My name's Robert Allen, #1 New York Times bestselling author, and this is the guy right here. This is I pass off my entire career over to this guy right here because he does so great with the information that came out of Creating Wealth, right?
I tell you what, man. So Bob came over to record these episodes that we're doing today, and he was walking in with a stack of books. I mean, just a literal stack of books. And when he hit my door, you know, I was looking at him, and I was like, man, that's a legacy of work. That's a lifetime of work. The lives that you've impacted, the change that you've made, the wealth of knowledge that you've distributed to the world in those books has been phenomenal.
It is.
And it's an honor to have you guiding, leading the pursuit of the passive income machine. And so today, my friends, that's really what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the inspiration, the foundation of where the passive income machine strategy came from. So, Bob, I want to ask you a couple of specific questions around this. Because the book that inspired me, I'll never forget. You know, you have those pivotal moments in your life, you know, when something changes, your perspective changes. And sometimes those are wake-up calls. Sometimes they come in the form of like a disaster that causes you to do something different. But for me, it was right after 2008. I had lost everything that I had saved up to that point. My pursuit was to retire early, and I was saving, I was working, I was grinding so hard trying to put as much money as I could into my brokerage account, my IRA. I was option trading, doing all of this stuff. And in 2008, everything fell apart, and I realized I had no control over the outcome. And if I had no control over the outcome, how could I ever predict the outcome and impact the outcome? And this is what led me to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad to begin with. And I read that book and I was like, oh my gosh, everything I thought I knew about money was wrong, but I had no idea what to do with it. And I'll never forget, I was still working in a different state than my family. This was after my son's heart surgery. And I spent a couple weeks in the hospital with him, and I still had to go back up to my apartment, and I was kind of feeling lonely and lonesome and bad for myself. I wanted to quit my job. And I had your book. I can't even remember how I got it.
You don't remember how you got it?
I wish I would have known. But I'm in my apartment in Indianapolis. My family lives back in Texas at the time. And I open your book and I get to, I believe it was chapter 5, if I remember right. And in chapter 5, you laid out a framework for buying 2 single-family homes a year. And up until that point, I didn't know how I was going to do what I wanted to do. But when I read that chapter and I read your framework, 2 simple single-family homes a year for 10 years, and then you mapped out what would happen in year 11 and beyond, I realized that was something I could do. And I'll never forget that inspiration, that new clarity, that new breakthrough that I had at that moment. Distance away from my family, but I saw a pathway out, and it came from your book. So, Bob, how did you write Creating Wealth #1, and where did the idea for 2 simple single-family homes a year come from? No one talks about real estate investing the way you did back then.
Well, I wrote Nothing Down, which is the first book that got me started, and it was just a story of how I got started and didn't have a lot of money. I had $1,000 that my dad gave me for graduation, and no one would hire me. It was a bad recession, and I'm glad I didn't take the corporate route like you did.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of years. Nobody would hire me, so
unhireable from the beginning.
So I said, well, if that's the case, then I really want to just go become a millionaire. Why do I want to become an employee? So I started investing in real estate, and then made my first million in about 3-4 years. And then I started teaching people, and so the second book came out. I said, well, what am I going to write my second book on? You know, and the second book was Creating Wealth, and I spent 2 years writing Creating Wealth.
Look at that.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
That was
the book. I mean, look at this right here. The wealth of knowledge. Here's all my notes. I mean, look, you can see all my notes. I mapped this out so like it was a playbook. So yeah, talk about that creating wealth, that 2 single family homes. Where did that idea come from?
well. I like to make things simple. When what you said when you read the book is exactly what I want every person who reads my book. When they finish, I want them to go, "I can do this." And so what happened for you? You go, I can do this. So that's my skill. I try to simplify things, and then we just what happened is the book you read was about 20 years earlier. Kiyosaki read Creating Wealth too.
All right, so let's pause right there. I mean, so Bob, what you're telling me, Robert Kiyosaki, I think when I introduce people to our world, one of the questions I ask him is, "Hey, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?" And everyone has read it or at least heard of it.
Totally.
Your book inspired Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, he was in the middle of late 80s. The book hadn't come out yet, and he read Creating Wealth just like you did, and he says, "I can do this."
I can do this.
And he gave it to his wife.
Yeah, Kim.
Kim.
Oh man.
And he said, "Kim, go do this." Well, she did 18. In 18 months she did 20 houses in 18 months.
Dang.
And then they went on to buy over 7,000 properties in their lifetime. So it's amazing how creating this little silly book has just touched so many people. And when you write a book, you don't really expect that to happen. I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know I would meet you and that you would take that information and spread it to so many other people. It's very humbling. It's very overwhelming, frankly. And I'm just happy to be here to be able to communicate to your audience and actually our audience now, because we're going to write. Well, we are writing, almost done with the Passive Income Machine, and you're going to buy it and you're going to use it.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, before we get back into it, I gotta tell you, if you're getting value here, you'll love the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. I mean, seriously, everything you're hearing right now, the tactics, strategies, all the insights, they all tie back to this one incredible event. We're laying out the exact blueprint for financial freedom in 2025, and pre-registration is open right now. If you jump in early, you'll get special bonuses that won't last forever. So hit that link in the description or go to retireintenyears.com and secure your spot. Now, let's get back to the show. Well, I love that, Bob. I mean, I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the psychology of it because, when I think when a lot of people think of real estate investing, they think of this idea of, I'm going to use Grant Cardone, right? I'm going to buy big apartment complexes. I'm going to do big projects and big deals. And look, I believe you can get rich in any niche, but here's the reality. Real estate is one of the greatest wealth producers of all time, but it's also one of the greatest wealth destroyers of all time if you don't raise your financial IQ big enough to the project that you step into. And so what I mean by that is if you go into the world of real estate investing and think you're going to step right into multifamily, the level of financial understanding and IQ that you have to get in there and be successful on a deal like that is massive. And I think a lot of people think about just diving right in there where you said, hey, forget about all that stuff. This is the thing that everyone can do. And the thing I love about single family homes, everybody already has inherent expertise.
Yeah,
They
you live in one or apartment building or whatever.
You know what a good home looks like. You know what a good neighborhood looks like. And when we think about financing and we think about all of the tools and resources available to a single family homeowner, everything you need to be successful, the financial IQ, the resources, the lending, it's all available to you readily at your hand. So I want to ask you, where did the idea for 2 simple single family homes come from? Because since then, no one talks about real estate investing that way. Up to that point, no one talked about real estate investing that way. Where did you get it from?
Well, actually, I do what everybody should do. They should go to seminars and people, trainings, read books. At that time, there were a couple of guys teaching about single family homes. You don't know who they are. They're long gone in history. And I went to one of their little seminars, and it was like a light turn on my head, like, oh, single family homes, yeah, that's a great idea. And so I started teaching it, and doing it and buying, dozens of properties in my own neighborhood. and I decided to take that concept and simplify it. They hadn't talked about buying 2 houses a year.
Yeah.
They just said single family homes are a good deal.
Yeah.
And so I simplified it and then put it into the laying out, because it's like launching a rocket ship into space. As my mentor Stephen Covey would say, it takes enormous energy to get that rocket ship into orbit, but then it takes the breath of a baby to push it forward. So the concept is about passive income. It's hard to get those 20 houses up into space, but when they're into space, streams of income are flowing to you for the rest of your life. So that was my metaphor. And a metaphor is something that you create a way so a person can understand it easily. So the metaphor, that's what, when you read it, you read the metaphor about the launching into the space thing. So that's my skill. It's just taking a concept, making it simple, easily understandable. And now what we've done with the passive income machine is that where you took creating wealth and took it to the next level, no doubt about it. You said, managing a property, buying it, finding it, and managing it, it's hard and it's complicated. There's got to be a better way. And you figured it out. You said, I'm going to find somebody else to do all that stuff. I'm going to have, turnkey providers. Why didn't I think about that? You know why? Because there were no turnkey providers when Creating Wealth came out. Nobody did anything like that. It was all, you got to do it on your own. You're a bootstrap person. But turnkey providers means somebody else does all the hard work. And my Creating Wealth is I want you to buy the property below the market. I want you to buy a bargain because you're a business person. You don't buy a coat at retail and sell it at retail. You got to make a profit. Where you came along and you said, well, real estate, if you find a turnkey provider, they get a lot of the profit, no doubt about it. And maybe you're paying retail for it. But 10 years from now, you'll look back at what you paid for it. You won't even remember that it wasn't a 10 or 20% below the market. You won't even remember that. You'll just go, I own a property. It's giving me cash flow. Why do I care about what I paid for it, frankly?
I tell you what, if you haven't listened to episode 4, go back and check that one out, because I talked about decade over decade over decade, the increase in purchase price of real estate. And one of the best things that you just mentioned there is 10 years. That's all you really need. If you can buy a property and not try to time the market, not try to find the perfect deal, but get time in the markets, in 1 decade, you will have multiple 6 figures of wealth just from owning and amortizing the mortgage on that piece of property. And so the way to scale, financial freedom, we're going to talk about it this way. Financial freedom, the way people measure it and quantify it is when the income from your assets, cash flow, exceeds your expenses, you've technically hit financial freedom.
Yep.
But if we only leave it there, then technically today in your job, you're financially free, right? Your income exceeds your expenses. So the other side of financial freedom is time. There has to be a component of time. And I think where almost all real estate gurus and seminars and books, they talk about how to make money in real estate. And no doubt you can make money in real estate. But if you're doing all the work, you have a job in real estate. You're not financially free.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the pathway of the passive income machine is really do exactly what Bob Allen talks about. Buy 2 single-family homes per year, every single year for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, in year 11, you've got these 2 assets that have equity, that have cash flow, that have appreciation. Your tenants have been paying down the mortgage. And we have all of these profit centers inside of real estate. But if you didn't have to do the work for the 10 years, if your turnkey provider did it, you were free. You owned your time.
That's revolutionary.
That's it.
And I didn't really get it. I mean, 40 years later, until we met, and you said, I almost lost my shirt in real estate. Thanks, Bob. But then I figured out how to make it work for me. And I didn't get that. I didn't understand that. It just went right over top of my head. And I'm the guy who wrote the book, right? So I think you've revolutionized the way going forward. It's the turnkey provider. Somebody else does the hard work, but you end up with the asset that generates the cash flow, and the cash flows are increasing. 10 years from now, the cash flow will be double. It'll be double, and the value will probably be double. It's just genius, really.
But I tell you what, Bob, it was the book Creating Wealth that opened me up to so many different things. It opened me up to the idea that someone like me without a lot of real estate expertise and knowledge could do real estate. It was simple enough to get me moving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like Kim is way better than me, way better. She did 18 properties in what, 18 months? Is that you said?
20 in 18 months.
I did 17 in 4 years. And that was my version of being Kim. And man, I tell you what, it was so crazy. After 17 properties in 4 years, I was in a fundamentally different reality. I never, like this, back in the day when I got in the corporate world and I wanted to quote unquote retire early, I was putting as much of my money into my 401k as I could. I was getting the company sponsored match. That wasn't going fast enough, so I opened up a brokerage account. I would listen to Jim Cramer, try to pick and choose stocks. And it was just this roller coaster. It was ups and downs. And the biggest part about it, when I won, I didn't know why. And when I lost, I didn't know why. I mean, it was just a bigger gamble. But once I got into real estate, there was a learning curve. But once I got into there and I got the learning curve relatively figured out, something really interesting started to happen. Predictable and consistent wealth creation every single year. And after 4 years, 17 properties, when my boss told me, hey, you're going back on the road, you got to get back out, travel, do all the things that you don't want to do, I quit. And I didn't plan on quitting. It was the 17 properties, the income that I had coming in from those, and the wealth that I had created just over 4 years that opened up a doorway of possibility. That when the opportunity opened itself to me, I walked through it. And Bob, that book literally changed my life. And I want to say publicly, thank you for that. A couple of years ago during COVID, we were able to make a connection. And I wanted to invite you to one of our events. And I was a little bit nervous because it was during COVID. And Bob, you're not a spring chicken anymore, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to invite Bob out to all these people. And, he's standing in front of them. But we presented you. We presented you with a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
The reason I wanted to present that to you is a legacy. I think a lot of people kind of they leave off what a legacy really is. They think it's all about what they leave, the money, the resources that they leave. But a legacy and what you leave is ultimately defined by how you live. And this book right here, Creating Wealth, is a definition of how you've lived and the lives that you've impacted. And that book inspired me to create a movement of all the listeners today.
You.
And we brought you in to stand before them. And we decided at that, it took a little bit of time after that, but we decided to rewrite and update Creating Wealth. Tell me a little bit about your decision to want to let me, because man, I feel like that's a huge privilege. I'm coming into your world, Bob. You're a multiple New York Times bestseller. I mean, look at all these books here. This is a massive accomplishment, and you're letting me come into your world to rewrite Creating Wealth with the Passive Income Machine. Talk a little bit about your mindset behind wanting to even do that.
It was just seeing your students and watching how your students were doing what you were telling them to do, and with the right kind of mindset. And so I there are a lot of people who are selling my information around the world, but I just love the way you were communicating with them. And I'm saying, I want to be associated for my legacy, to have you take my legacy to the next level. I'm 77 in a couple of days. Couple days. I feel like I still feel young. I still got lots of juice in me, and I think we can just take it to the next level. We can reach millions of more people, frankly.
So, guys, as you're listening to this podcast, this is the prelude to the Passive Income Machine book coming out. And what we've done is we've taken the foundational principles inside of Creating Wealth, and we've updated them for a modern day playbook.
Yep.
How anyone, no matter who you are, where you start from, how you can achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less. And the benefit of that, I think today, Bob, you've got almost 77 years in this world, and I imagine you've seen the world change a lot in 77 years.
Even real estate.
And, I think today, I don't know, maybe every generation has their problems, but man, today our world is facing so many problems. People are stuck financially. They're in more debt, consumer, not investment debt, consumer debt than they've ever been in. Their retirement accounts are smaller than a fraction of what they would ever need to be able to retire, even at the age of 65. And we're coming at them with a revolutionary promise that came from your original book.
Yep.
You can be financially free in 10 years or less. So, Bob, it's on you. Was it important for you to pass on the legacy of financial freedom in 10 years or less?
Well, the lie about retiring at age 65. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't want to retire at 65. I want to retire as quickly as I possibly can. And what most people don't really get is do I really need to wait till I'm 65? So that was when I wrote Creating Wealth. I said to myself, when do I want to retire? I'm the guy who's writing it. Remember, I'm 32 years old or 33 years old. And so I'm saying to myself, well, how long do I really want to continue doing this? And so probably in my mind, I'm saying to myself, well, 10 years is the longest I want to go before I retire, right? And so I set that as an outline figure. But remember, I'm going against everybody around me. They're saying retirement is 65. Well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Who made that up? 60. Who made that figure 65? So let's retire in 10 years. Let's get that done. And what do I need to do to accomplish that? Well, I'm going to use leverage. Because leverage is a powerful force. If it's leverage used to borrow against something that's illiquid is dangerous. You'd never want to use leverage in the stock market. But if an asset is stable, like houses are, then I can borrow money against them without having the leverage turn against me. Therefore, if it's going to go in my favor, literally, I can take a little bit of my money, 5,000 or 5% down, 10% down, or zero down, like I wrote in my book, and I can magnify that through leverage. So leverage is speed. Just say that. Let's just say that together. Leverage is speed. So if I have proper leverage, careful leverage, then I'm going to get not 65 years, not 55, not 45, not 35, not 25, not 15, 10. I'm going to get powerful, massive wealth in a short period of time because of the power of leverage.
Bob, I love that. Again, just kind of going back to when I read that book. I mean, it was that promise. I think that's how I got that. I picked out that book because you had this promise that was so outlandish. I was trying to retire early, which for me meant in my 50s. So after 30 years. Yeah. And you said I could do it in 10 years. And when I read your book on how to do that, it opened up this doorway of possibility. And I believe, my friends, that today we live in a very different world. The world that we live in today, I believe many people are searching for purpose. They're searching for meaning. And oftentimes you're not going to find that in your job. You just won't. You might find a little bit of a creative outlet inside of your job, but oftentimes you're not going to find your true meaning and purpose in your job. And what I find so oftentimes with people is they trade the best days, months, years, decades of their life waiting for one day, waiting to have enough money to retire. That day never comes.
Yeah.
And their purpose, the one shot that they get at living life, to finding maximum fulfillment and abundance in life, is also lost because they didn't have the right financial plan to unlock a opportunity to chase purpose. Bob, that's what you've been doing your entire life. You've been chasing your purpose. And that, my friends, that's greater than financial freedom. Financial freedom is the gateway to open up the opportunity to chase your purpose.
Yep.
But it's the fulfillment that comes from using your God-given talents in the service of other people that really will bring the fulfillment to life. And I love that about you, Bob. And this was encapsulated in the last chapter of your book, Creating Wealth. You shifted my mindset yet again on what wealth actually is. Talk a little bit about the difference between how the world perceives wealth through the context of money and what wealth actually is, Bob.
Take a deep breath of that one. What do you really want to do while you're here on this planet? Do you want to create somebody else's wealth, which is your boss, and they've got you at the salary that makes them wealthy because they got a net profit.
Yeah. But
creating wealth means you want to create your wealth. And why? So that you get to do what you were put on the planet to do. And it's honorable to work. I'm not saying it's not honorable. It's honorable to give your talents to build, but what I'm about is creating wealth so I get to wake up in the morning and do what I want to do. And I'm going to ask myself 4 questions when I wake up in the morning. What do I love to do? Do I love my job? If maybe I do love my job, great, go to work, love it. What are my talents? What am I really, really good at? Number 3, what's really important to me? And number 4, what's my destiny? We use the word destiny, legacy. Well, one day I won't be breathing anymore, but my books will still be here for 100 years after it. And therefore people will pick it up. You know where they'll pick it up? They'll go to a used bookstore. Believe it or not, the guy's in Japan and he picks up my copy of my book in a used bookstore. He's living in the park in the middle of Tokyo, homeless. And he goes into a used bookstore and he finds a copy of Multiple Streams of Income, and the price is too high. So he goes and finds another cheaper book and trades the price tag to the lowest price tag he could possibly afford. And he reads Multiple Streams of Income, and it changes his life. So my legacy will go on in used bookstores for decades and decades. What would be your legacy? Well, you wake up in the morning being financially free. You decide, what will I do today? I'm going to take the gifts that I came with to this planet, and I'm going to magnify them. I'm going to do what I love to do. That's a gift. Your passion is a gift from God. You like certain things that other people don't like. I don't like numbers. I don't like doing accounting. That's the last thing I want to do. But some people absolutely love it. They just, it's orgasmic for them, right? So I want you to wake up once you've achieved the financial freedom time frame. What am I going to do today? How will I give my gifts today? How will I take my passions and turn them into profits for other people? How will I do things that are important to me? If you're not doing what's important to you, then you're not living life. If you have to do things that are not important to you, like you said, you work 65 years doing things that are really not important to you, and then you end up saying, then I'm going to retire. Then I'm going to do what's really important to me, what I'm really passionate about. And 6 months later, you have a heart attack. And it happens.
All the time.
All the time. So I want you to create wealth so that you get to live the reason you came to this planet. And let's get it done in 10 years. Can you do it in 5? Oh yeah, you could do it in 5, but 10 is a really realistic, not pushing it, not taking inordinate risks. 10 years is a realistic time frame. And anything beyond that, I think is you're benefiting somebody else and not yourself.
Well, there you have it, my friends. Listen, the greatest form of wealth is for you to be able to wake up every single day and say freely, I can do whatever I want today. And you use that freedom to chase your God-given purpose. So with that being said, Bob, creating wealth, again, thank you. It's a gift to humanity. It's a gift to me. And it's the prelude to the Passive Income Machine book.
See you there.